Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only radio broadcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio bigwigs as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and this week on the Movie Film Studios radio program Variety Hour, we delve into the world of gangsters in our retrospective look at Mafia films.
And I think that's enough with the voice.
I think it is, yes.
So we're back to doing a retrospective, and this week we're looking at some of the more well-known classic Mafia films.
Classic Mafia films that, for whatever reason, we haven't really fully watched before.
No, I'm not a Mafia film fan. I've seen a few of Scorsese's earlier works, but none of the really big ones that he seems to be known for. Which. So one of which we'll be discussing, obviously,
exactly.
Some of the other big ones. So do you want to start us off? What did we watch this week?
Yes, so this week, to kick off this retrospective episode, we have Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese and released in 1990, starring Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta,
Robert De
Niro, Lorraine Bracco, and a couple of other people.
I swear, I swear there's got to be one actor who's in all three of the films we're going to discuss.
So, but
it's going to be some Italian character actor.
Probably,
who, was who's just been in all of those mob films for 3 decades. Because I think the films that we've chosen have spanned 3 decades worth of filmmaking. So, I mean, Goodfellas is one of those classic films. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't seen it all the way through.
Yeah, me too.
But it's one of those classic depictions of organized crime in America in, I think, the 50s and 60s. Around that sort of time. And it's got that classic line for as long as I could remember, I've always wanted to be gangster? I wanted to say mobster.
I think gangster is sort of correct. So it starts off with like Ray Liotta's voiceover sort of explaining his life, and that's sort of like the trope of this film as well. I think the entire film is narrated by him, so he's kind of like talking about his life in crime and his parents or his mother's dissatisfaction with him in sort of entering this life, and just the general tomfoolery that mobsters and gangsters get up to.
There's lots of gunshots, like close-ups of like snub-nose revolvers as they go up off next to people's faces. There's De Niro and Joe Pesci burying bodies in the middle of the woods.
Can I also like to say, this is peak Joe Pesci as well. Yeah. Like, this is all the characterizations of Joe Pesci you've ever seen. They don't come from that fishing film that he did with the guy from Lethal Weapon.
Danny Glover.
Yeah. You remember that Gone Fishing film that they did together? It's like this really bizarre comedy, which I always thought was a sequel to Lethal Weapon, like a spin-off film, but it's not. But anyway, this is peak.
See, just
Pesci.
2 short years after Goodfellas, he's in a little film called Home Alone, where he's also playing a violent criminal, but being bested by a young Macaulay Culkin. In this one, he does a lot more of the besting with, as I said, a snub-nosed revolver. I'm sure if he had that one, he and Daniel Stern?
Daniel Stern, I think, yes.
Would have made short work of Macaulay Culkin.
It really, I mean, again, we can't talk about this too much because we just don't know what happens in it.
This is subtitled 3 Decades of Life in Organized Crime or something along those lines. I have a feeling it may be based off a memoir of an actual person who was, I don't actually really know. Let's say it is based on a true story. My understanding is it goes from him being a young kid growing up poor in New York, New Jersey, doesn't really matter, in the 50s, idolizing these mobsters who seem to have it all made, getting into the life of that scene and having the money and having the power and getting the women and having the respect. And spoiler alert, I again haven't seen the film. I have a feeling the back end of it is him working with the FBI to try and take down the mob from the inside or something along those lines. They all seem to end up that way. This trailer has flashes of Wolf of Wall Street, which is a Scorsese film that I've seen. It has he's got cash strapped inside his body. It's got the whole beautiful women who are enamored by powerful men. And really, when you look at like the guys on Wall Street and the mobsters of the 50s and 60s, they're just as bad criminals as each other.
They just don't kill each other these days, as far as I'm aware.
Not so much, but still as much cocaine and just as much cash flying about. So
the weird thing about this trailer, though, is that for the most part, it's narrated by Ray Liotta, from I'm assuming just pulled from the film. And then right at the end, it brings in the movie guy voice.
In a world. Like,
just to finish off the trailer.
Literally the last 10 seconds of the trailer, he gets to do the voiceover. It's like, move aside, Ray Liotta. I've got some things to tell you about Goodfellas. The other really tough thing about looking at trailers in retrospective is finding the actual original trailers on YouTube because there's so many fan cuts.
Yeah.
It's like you're not really sure if you're actually watching the official trailer, even though it says official trailer in the YouTube title. So
also, like, the art of making a trailer was really kind of solidified in, I'm going to say, like, the 2000s and forward, where they had a very, like, formulaic rhythm to them. The ones in the past are all like really...
They're all scattershot.
Yeah.
It's just like little scenes and snippets everywhere. 80s, I thought you were going to say solidified in the 80s. When the movie voice guy came in...
True, yeah.
And you start seeing like cuts of like the one-liners, the bits that sell the film, and then you have the movie guy just sort of putting his sheen over the top to make it coherent.
Yeah.
Before then, it's like sometimes it's just like a 2-minute scene from in the middle of the film, and then it's just like... If you want to watch one film this summer, watch this. I'm like, what are you doing? You haven't sold me at all. This is weird. The pacing's all bad.
Yeah.
Where's Dwayne The Rock Johnson jumping out of a building and grabbing onto a crane?
Where's that, like, that moment where you're not sure if he's going to make it or not?
Yeah.
It's none of that. It's just gratuitous violence.
I think a lot of, like, there's been a bit of a shift in filmmaking where they actually write scenes into the films that they know that they can use in the trailers to sell the film as well.
I think you're absolutely right.
And there was a period in filmmaking where they just wanted to make films and they didn't care about having to advertise them, and then it became all corporate.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when we got jobs.
All right, let's fast forward a little bit to the 80s and talk about Scarface.
So, but you say fast forward in terms of the organized crime, but not in terms of... This was made in 83.
That's right.
So it was made earlier but set later.
Yes.
So this is organized crime in Miami, I believe.
Yes.
With Al Pacino's iconic role as
oh gosh,
Joe Scarface. I don't know what his actual name is.
Tony Montana.
Tony Montana. That makes sense. For some reason, I thought Tony Montana was a NFL star.
He probably was.
Joe Montana.
John Montana. I think
Yeah, maybe. It's his younger brother with a slightly different last name.
Yep.
And this one is, again, drug running. I imagine they're all drug running.
Yeah. Less of an ensemble cast in this one. This one's really centered around Scarface in his moment. It's not a retrospective or anything like that. And yes, he is a sort of a drug lord, a Colombian drug lord. I'm pretty sure it's Colombian. It's one of the two.
Cuban, maybe.
Somewhere along those lines. I don't want to be racist, but South American origin drug.
I don't think you can be any more racist than Al Pacino's accent in this film, which is bordering on a caricature of a Latin American person. Maybe it's a good representation. I think it cops a bit of shtick these days for being borderline insensitive.
Oh, it absolutely is. And it's that ridiculousness that everyone wants to imitate as well. Like, everyone's done the...
Say hello to my little friend.
That one, yeah. First you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. I mean, The Simpsons even satirized that at some point as well. This has that kind of sheen of the 80s, you know, the over-the-top exaggerated outfits, the like slightly synthetic score in the background as well. Michelle Pfeiffer just coming in there, not having any dialogue in the trailer, by the way.
She's really young in this film as well.
Really young. But yeah, clearly the film is Al Pacino's sort of... It's his.
So this is the only gangster film this week that I've seen.
Yes.
And I wasn't really paying very close attention to it. I think I was working on something else. But really, quite strangely, I knew every single song on the soundtrack.
Really?
Like, word for word. I'm like, how is that possible? I don't listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
But every single song that appeared, I'm like, how is this possible? I realized there's a radio station on GTA 3 that I think it's Flashback FM, and Flashback FM just plays the Scarface soundtrack. And so I'm like, take it to the limit, past the point. I'm like, how do I know this? I'm like, because I've been driving around like whatever Liberty City and just killing a whole bunch of people.
Is the 80s that the start of the time period where they start using original songs instead of an orchestral or original soundtrack? Feels like all the songs of the 80s started appearing in films at around about that time.
Yeah, you had like Duran Duran all those. Like beforehand, like you look at Bond and they definitely had some introductory songs, but I don't think on the inside. The only one I can think of is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which I think is like 1979.
Yep.
Has like Why Do Birds Suddenly Appear, like or something like. There's this weird song where they're riding a bicycle like right in the middle of the film, and it's set in like the 1860s, and like this like 1960s song just sort of comes on for no reason.
Who knows?
But yeah, that's pretty close to the 80s. I'm sure that's where they sort of started to take that ball and run with it.
Yeah. I also wonder when Scarface is going to get remade.
Because I think it is a remake. I think there's a 1930s gangster film called Scarface.
Yes.
Back in the day where like all of the actors wore like white powder all over their face. And it's like, because it's black and white. I'm like, it still looks really, really strange.
Yep.
I think it's a silent film, and then...
so no crazy racist accents in that film then?
I mean, there probably were. They just didn't have the equipment to pick them up.
Were the title cards written in the accent as well?
Because Al Capone's nickname was Scarface as well, which I think was the original...
So is this maybe like a spiritual successor or something?
I don't know. Not really sure. Maybe they just called it Scarface because he had a scar on his face, and the original film was about Al Capone, and this one's about someone else entirely.
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't get the life rights to Al Capone. Who knows? Who knows why they made this? Directed by Brian De Palma, but a screenplay by Oliver Stone. I wasn't aware of that. He obviously went on to make and direct a few films of his own. But obviously started out writing gangster films.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure this film is. I haven't seen it. But I'm sure it's great. So let's instead move on to a film I actually have seen, and it's kind of the classic that sort of started them all, The Godfather, released in 1972, directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
So this one, to my eternal shame, is a film that I've never watched.
Oh,
and it's one of those ones that everyone quotes as being the best film of all time, my favourite film.
Oh, it's pretty fabulous.
And I haven't seen it. And I'm now staunchly refused to never watch Godfather just to spite all of them.
See, the thing is, so a bit of history for you here in terms of my own personal life. Me being of Italian origin means that I saw a lot of The Godfather before I'd actually seen the film, and I only say that in terms of the amount of lines that were quoted at me from various family members from this film. So stuff like, I
mean, I know a lot of the... I'll make him an offer you can't refuse.
Offer you can't refuse.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or what, I don't know what the line is, but it's something like that, right? Or, on this the day of my daughter's wedding.
Yeah, exactly.
These are all lines that are so deeply ingrained into pop culture that you know without ever having watched the film itself.
But it's also really weird because I watched that film and it feels like I'm watching like family videos at a certain point as well, because The Godfather, played by Marlon Brando, sort of looks a little bit like my late grandfather as well, and has that same kind of mannerism. So it's a bit weird to watch because it hits very close to home, minus all the actual violence and shooting, as far as I'm aware. But this film is an undisputed classic, probably in most part due to Marlon Brando's depiction of the titular character. Vito Corleone. And as well as that, Al Pacino's role as... was it Al Pacino?
It is Al Pacino,
Al Pacino. His role as the son, I believe, or what do you call the...
the heir, the protege, no?
Yeah, the person the Godfather's looking after.
Is he not actually his dad, or...
No, I'm pretty sure that he's not actually part of the Corleone family.
Oh, really? I assumed that it was Marlon Brando's...
No, Vito Corleone is his godfather.
Oh.
Yes. That's where you get the name of the film from.
I assumed it was his son, because he takes over as being the godfather.
He does, yeah. So he becomes this sort of... He rises up through the ranks. I believe he was a bit of a nobody back in the... I haven't seen The Godfather for a long time, so I'm probably talking out of my ass here. But as far as I remember, Al Pacino's character, whose name I've forgotten, is actually an outsider to the Corleone family, but Vito sort of takes him on and becomes his godfather, and he basically gets interweaved into their role, or into their family, as a big-time mafia crime boss syndicate man.
So this one, I mean, has, from memory of seeing snippets of it, probably as much killing as there are in the other ones.
Tons of it.
Actually, it really can't compare to Scarface in terms of the amount of machine gun fire that he just like. But this has definitely got.
But this has some really iconic scenes in it. The horse head.
A horse head. Is the one where he hides a gun in the bathroom and then he has to get the gun and shoot some guy in a restaurant. Yeah. And then there's another one where there's people hiding out like in a toll booth. And when the I mean, again, I have seen all of these snippets. I can probably piece together the entire film from the little clips that I've seen.
But yeah, an absolute classic, followed by The Godfather 2 and the slightly less classic Godfather 3.
There is like some 6 degrees of... It was actually only 2 degrees of separation because De Niro, who is in Goodfellas, is in Godfather 2.
Yep.
And Pacino, who's in Godfather, is in Scarface.
Exactly.
There's very... Like, there's a Venn diagram, which is it's pretty much just a circle because the things overlap so much that all of the same actors of Italian descent.
Exactly.
And they probably all went on to be in The Sopranos when they're a little bit later on in life.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm sure there has to be someone who's like been in all 3 of these films. I couldn't tell you who they are, but their name probably ends in Eno or Gianni or
Scarcella. All right, I think those are the 3 films for this week's episode. But of course, before we can do anything with those, we're going to take a little walk over to the green room.
Let's go.
All right, here we are. Now, we don't really have to choose a film this week because the theme is Mafia.
The Mafia
We're going to be
retrospective,
taking something from all 3 of these films, and that's obviously the Mafia connection. Now, the first thing I want to put in there is I think we need a reclusive, slightly batty older actor to play our, like, lead or sort of someone who's close to a lead role, the sort of archetype or the parental type, a la Marlon Brando.
Yep.
We also have to do something to him physically that gives him that kind of air of mysteriousness. So the famous story is that like Marlon Brando shoved cotton wool into his cheeks to get him that sort of like bizarre kind of like mouth hanging open like kind of voice. I think we need to do that. So I'm heading straight to casting.
All right, okay, go ahead.
So who can we get? And I'm thinking immediately who jumps to mind is Jeff Bridges. But
you know what's really weird about that choice? Is one of the only references I have for Godfather is a film called Mafia! ! In which Lloyd Bridges plays the Godfather character. So I'm quite happy. I think Jeff Bridges would fit in nicely there.
Are they related?
That's their father and son.
Yeah,
and then
right.
Beau Bridges is Jeff's older brother.
Yes. I thought it was his son.
No,
you're right.
The other one that I wanted to bring up here is The Godfather is crime in America in the 20s and 30s, I think.
Yep.
Then we have Goodfellas, which is in the 50s and 60s.
Yep.
We have Scarface, which is the 80s.
Yes.
Is there a specific decade which we want to talk about organized crime in that period?
I always like going like super far back in time.
Right, okay. So, I mean, if you look at Scorsese's body of work, he did that with Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And then he did 80s with Wolf of Wall Street, or that was 90. I'm not really sure. He tends to go 80s. All over the place. I like the historical angle to it all.
I mean, how far back can we go before organized crime doesn't... How about like the start of organized crime? Now, I know that America likes to take credit for it, but I'm pretty sure, like democracy, it came from some other country somewhere else in the world.
The fact that it's called Mafia is like it's
Italian,
of Italian roots,
yes.
And I think that probably even goes back to maybe ancient Rome.
I think you're right. Yes.
I think we take it right back to the Mafia origins and to Roman organized crime.
Yes,
throughout the Senate, sort of in 40 BC, around Caesar's time.
Yep.
So Caesar was like 23, I think.
Yep,
23 to 14 with this like his.
Perfect.
Somewhere in those sort of...
Can we also include Caesar in this story as a kind of like a MacGuffin or...
Yeah, like I think kind of like you see, vote for Caesar. I'm not sure if they vote in the Senate. Anyway, he's definitely the president who's in the background, who has a couple of sort of like appearances in there, but is not really like... He's not part of the story. Maybe something... He's trying to crack down on crime, and so he becomes an antagonist to what our organized crime...
I mean, Caesar was not elected to power as far as I was aware. He was put in charge of the city while the city was off fighting wars and basically never gave up the throne after that ended. So he kind of was put there but then never left.
Yeah, so he was... I can't remember if it was a praetorship or... Anyway, there's a few steps they have to go to get to power. He was given command of the armies and went through Gaul, and then was told that if he'd gained so much popularity with the people and with his army that the Senate said, you cannot come back into Italy with your armies, and if you do, you're declaring war. Brilliant. And so he did come back in with his armies, and then Pompey, which was another figure at the time, they started a civil war, and then he defeated Pompey, and Pompey had to run away, and then he came back into Rome and said, all right, while we're under civil war, we'll elect you as ultimate ruler, or Rex, king.
Yes.
And And
the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yes.
Ancient history.
And I believe he was stabbed in the back at some point.
Yeah,
as well.
23 times he was stabbed.
Do we want to tie that into this as well?
Oh, interesting. It is like the Scarface kind of like shooting people in the back. Only this time they're doing it with knives and short swords.
Yeah.
This is really good. I like it.
I like the idea of a conspiracy, shadowy underworld of mafia kingpins who actually orchestrated the downfall of Caesar.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Because, they were, during the Civil War, they were profiteering. They were, hitting supply runs and stealing and selling on the black market, fixing gladiator fights, all that sort of, seedy underbelly mafia.
Sabotaging carts.
And then Caesar comes in and they're like, no, this political stability that we have with a ruler is not what we want. So he gets Brutus and Cassius and Cicero and all the other people in my ancient history textbook to betray him.
Okay, perfect. So we have Jeff Bridges as our kingpin of the ancient Italian mafia or the ancient Roman mafia.
Yep.
Who else should he have in there? Should he have like a young... I think he needs to have like a young protege. Or
it needs to be the Ray Liotta, the guy who's like he's grown up on the mean streets of Rome, and has always looked up to the people. Like he's like I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm a plebeian. So I'm never going to amass power through like the I want to say patriarchy, but are they patricians? They are patricians and plebeians, so I assume it is patriarchy. Sure, why not? And he's just like, and then he sees these people who are, were plebeians like him, and he's just like, I aspire to be in this, wealthy group of people. So
maybe Jeff Bridges sort of takes him on under his wing, a la like Thanos and Gamora from Avengers.
But is it the same sort of bitter, twisted end where? No, probably not.
No, he wants to get out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
He has a terrible life. All right, so who's going to play our sort of Ray Liotta, Al Pacino style character?
Yeah, interesting.
So we need like a young, fresh-faced. We kind of want to go for that sort of Italian descent or close to Italian descent style actor as well. Who is around these days that has more of a European look?
I don't know. I mean, I was going to say Tom Holland has that fresh face look, but we keep
too fresh-faced.
We keep casting Tom Holland in everything. This is also one of those ones where we, as Goodfellas does, where it's like 3 decades of my life in crime, and you have a young Ray Liotta, an actual Ray Liotta, and then a Ray Liotta with grey in his hair. We could split that up into 3 different roles.
Three different roles? Okay.
But then we have to come up with 3 actors, and we're really struggling to come up with
we only
one.
need 2 actors because we need the young one, and then the middle-aged one and the old one just needs to be makeup.
Yeah, sure.
Even better, cast the old one, makeup to make him look younger, and then cast a younger actor.
Or we can do the Marvel, and we can just CGI young Robert De Niro.
We could do that. Yeah. We could do that too. Plenty of options here, and I think that like the thing that most mafia films are lacking is gratuitous CGI.
Yes.
So
we said we're going to do a Coliseum fight. We can just borrow the same assets from Thor Ragnarok and use the bad CG
just
stadium
like a
in that
tiny
one.
green screen instead. Yeah. All right. Cool. We do need a massive Gladiator scene as well. We might as well then pull from the rule book of Gladiator as well. And do we need to get back what's his name?
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
What about Russell Crowe as Caesar?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think Russell Crowe would be a good Caesar in this film.
Can we also then do a complete role reversal? And I think our Ray Liotta character needs to be Joaquin Phoenix, that we then CG to make younger. And CG to make older. Yep.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure we can get some digital scans of Joaquin. He does have that sort of very severe eyebrow kind of look. And in his sort of younger days. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's so Russell Crowe is playing Caesar. Jeff Bridges is our archetypal kingpin, who then takes under his wing Joaquin Phoenix, who we will CGI as a young kid. We'll have to do the research on what he looked like as a young kid. Yep. And then we'll also CGI him as old because we don't use makeup anymore.
Did he have a different name when he was a young kid as well?
No.
I think he's like, because his brother was River, and he's in like Moonshine, and he like changed it to Joaquin because it was like a weird name. But I think we need to ask the Academy.
I'm going to ask the Academy. The problem is I don't know how to spell out Joaquin to the
Joaquin, Joaquim.
I'll just ask about River Phoenix and then get them to switch me over. Joaquin Raphael Phoenix is his name. That's how he was born. That's his actual name. Oh, sorry, he was born Joaquin Raphael Bottom. I don't know how that works, but sure. So there you go.
Does he have a sister who has a weird name?
He's got Rain Phoenix.
Rain Phoenix.
His sister, Liberty Phoenix, and Summer Phoenix.
So River, Rain, and then he gets a Joaquin?
Yeah.
Does that mean snowdrift in some language? They all seem to be nature focused, all except his.
I don't know. But anyway, regardless, so Joaquin is 43. Yeah. Sort of fit that middle-aged mafia boss.
Exactly. That's at an age where we can definitely prosthetic him to look 20 and prosthetic him to look 60 or what?
No. CG.
I mean, CG prosthetics. So we're just putting dots all over his face and then fixing it in
motion
post.
Capture the whole thing.
Yeah. So what are the beats of this film though? You've got he's young, he's on the street, he's scrappy.
Yep.
Jeff Bridges sees him maybe being beaten up by some other street thug people, but also giving it a good go back.
All right. How about this? We Joaquin and a young Caesar are childhood friends.
Oh wow!
But then the young Caesar stabs him in the back.
Oh.
Figuratively, not literally.
Because young Caesar's trying to slum it, young Caesar's very ambitious.
Yes.
But kind of goes, I know to actually get good power, I need military strength, and the best way to toughen myself up is to get in with these sort of street rats.
Yes.
And sort of comes down and befriends this sort of young Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes. I've got another thing for you to throw at you. So what if Joaquin and we're going to have to CG young Russell Crowe as well.
Yeah.
What if them, as kids, are vying for the affection of a different mafia kingpin?
Ooh.
Right? Someone who is actually on top of the pecking order.
Yes.
So it's not Jeff Bridges at that time, it's someone else. And at the last minute, Caesar, young Russell Crowe, stabs Joaquin in the back.
Yep.
And goes off with this new kingpin.
A literal kingmaker.
Yes. Exactly. And then after that, while Joaquin is sort of lying in the streets, defeated, bruised, whatever, Jeff Bridges rolls in as the sort of stick with me, kid, we'll go far. And then the story is set.
But then, you also have, because Jeff Bridges' rival is this other guy,
yes, exactly.
who is actually sort of the kingpin who's doing all the organised crimes. And Jeff Bridges is left there picking up the scraps of organised crime.
Exactly. So we've got a nice father-son story with Jeff Bridges and Joaquin. We've got another father-son story with whoever our other kingpin is and Russell Crowe.
Yep.
And then it's father against father, son against son. It's madness. So who are we going to cast as our kingmaker, as our playmaker?
Can we get Lloyd Bridges?
He is dead.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love Lloyd Bridges. I mean, can we get him back?
Maybe we get Beau Bridges.
Beau Bridges?
Have Beau Bridges versus Jeff Bridges.
That's not bad.
I think that's some good. And then the twist in the film is that they're brothers.
Yep.
And it's and the audience is just well, if you wanted to be a twist, why did you cast brothers to play brothers in a film?
Can we also make it just even more on the nose and have the final climactic battle on a bridge?
Yes, definitely. I like that. Except not the same bridge that Russell Crowe threw himself off in Les Miserables, because that was pretty bad.
No. But
so we have the street urchins fighting. We have the stabbing in the back. We have the Oliver Twist going off with Fagin or whatever that sort of thing is going on there. We have obviously then Caesar's career progresses in the background. I like the idea of the organised fight in the Colosseum where it's rigged and someone's supposed to fall, but because there's so many organised crime elements, they're both supposed to have rigged the fight and they're both supposed to lose. But there's definitely a couple more beats in there. Do we do a war thing when Caesar goes off to war? Is there some sort of
there needs to be an attempt there to seize power.
Yeah.
So sort of in the middle of the film, Caesar goes off to war. Joaquin, we need to give him a name actually, because I can't keep using his actor name. I can't. What's a good Roman name?
I was going to say Fabiano.
Fabiano.
Yep.
Is right, this is my chance now to seize power. Him and Jeff Bridges are yep, let's do it. But at the last minute, they're ousted by Beau Bridges.
Yes.
Who's just you thought you could sneak in and seize power while I'm here. And then there's that reveal that Bo and Jeff are brothers.
You know what we could do? And again, this is drawing on my very limited knowledge. I'm fairly sure that character that Bo Bridges plays historically would be called Crassus.
Crassus? All right.
Who was a rich old general who formed a triumvirate with Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus.
Yep.
And used their power and influence to sort of get political fame.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if historically Crassus has a younger brother who is also some sort of an organized crime lord, but that's Bo Bridges'
yeah, but history's written by the winners, isn't it?
And then rewritten by Hollywood.
Exactly. All right, perfect. So what? Crassus. So we don't have a name for Jeff Bridges' character.
No.
Can we make it like it has to be a name that sounds like Crassus, like
Tarnassus.
Exactly. So Crassus and Tarnassus, with Caesar and what did we Fabian.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Great. So we need to make this. We need to give bigger stakes. We need somehow to get more action, more CG in there. A lot of these Mafia films have gunfire, explosions. So that, like the Goodfellas has a bit where like the kid breaks the glass of a bunch of cars, pours petrol in there, and then sets them all on fire.
Yep.
And they explode for some reason.
Yeah. Because they're full of petrol.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they would just burn. It wouldn't explode.
Yeah, that's okay.
Can we somehow... Did they have explosives in ancient Rome?
I don't think so.
Damn.
But that's never stopped us before. There's got to be maybe like... I'm thinking like the Ben-Hur style sea fighting where they try and ram... Because that's what they tried to do more often than not was ram each other.
Yep.
I think at one stage, and this is probably a little bit later on in history, but Pompey, who was one of the members of the triumvirate, his son was put in charge of the navy.
Yep.
And then when Caesar came back, he kind of went, "Oh, you just killed my dad," so he pissed off with the navy and became a pirate and just harassed the supply lines. So maybe we can do something like that where the mafia is trying to like harass the supply lines with the navy, and we can have some big sort of like maybe they had giant flaming balls that they shot with catapults at each other on the sea.
I have an idea, but this might be slightly too ridiculous.
Let's go with it.
Pompey.
Yep.
I'm thinking Pompeii.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that they're somehow harnessing the power of Mount Vesuvius to make new explosive weapons.
You're about 150 years too early.
Doesn't matter. It does not. But that's the thing, right? Maybe this is what sets in motion the eventual eruption of Mount Vesuvius.
I think what you're thinking of is like the third part of this one, which is just like, anyway, I don't mind it. I don't mind it that if part of that sort of pirate thing is they are developing a catapult that fires molten material at their enemies, and the only source they can find for it is in Vesuvius. Why not? Well, that's fine.
I have no idea where these places are on a map, but doesn't matter.
It's Vesuvius is like a holiday town. This is south of Rome on the coast.
Okay.
That'll work.
That'll work. Great. So that just adds, that's now we can have some gratuitous explosions in Rome.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So we need now the climactic, like, final battle between Caesar, Fabian, Crassus, and Tarnassus.
Tarnassus is what we called him.
I think was what we called him.
Yeah, I think what actually happens with Caesar is they just kind of stab him on the steps of Rome and leave him to bleed.
Yep.
But I like the idea that, like, sort of a la Inglourious Bastards, how the whole thing is burning down behind them.
Yep.
As that, so I kind of feel as though maybe the whole Senate building catches on fire.
Yep.
Like we take from other, Nero was supposed to be an emperor who just sat there and watched Rome burn.
Yep.
So maybe we just steal that part of history and bring it into here where
we'll just have him there.
All of Rome is just on fire.
Yep.
And Nero did it for some reason. They hired Nero, who was a well-known pyromaniac.
Pyromaniac, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole thing's on fire as Fabian and Caesar are like running through the streets of Rome, and the reason they know how to run all throughout the sewer system is because that's where they grew up. Was where they met, and then eventually they sort of catch up and they have this big sort of, I want to say lightsaber duel, but they definitely don't have lightsabers.
Or do they? Maybe they have flame swords.
Definitely flaming swords.
Flaming swords. So they've dipped it in, a la, like, I think they had the scene in Pirates of the Caribbean where you like dip it in petrol or like some kind of like oil lantern and set it on fire, and you get like a fire sword.
Yeah, maybe Vesuvius, the Pompeii.
Yep.
And what's the other place there? Herculaneum,
Yep.
manufacturers of this oil,
Yep.
this oil, ever burning oil.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why when Vesuvius goes off,
Yep.
like 150 years later, the whole place burns down because
Yeah. That's where they made it.
They've been making this oil
Yeah.
that they've been using in the catapults to launch things at people that
okay.
they've been lighting their
This is
swords on
great.
fire. Yeah.
So that oil sort of comes from volcanic material.
Yeah, exactly.
See, this is legitimate now.
Yeah,
People
exactly.
go to our film and go, oh, I didn't know that they were doing that at that time. So yeah, that fuel's made from volcanic ashes and all kinds of
Yep.
bits and pieces, and is sort of shipped throughout. Not even shipped throughout. It's secretly shipped to Rome.
Yes.
To Caesar because he's experimenting with new types of weaponry.
Exactly.
At the end of it, they both get their hands on it and they have a flaming sword battle. I also think that Tarnassus needs to die.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? Maybe Tarnassus and Cassius, was it Cassius? No, Crassus need to kill each other
Yeah.
as a kind of.
Yeah, this is the catalyst for Act 3. And
Yeah.
so all of Fabian's actions beyond the point where Tarnassus dies
Yep.
are kind of like venge-filled.
Yep.
So Caesar has to kill Tarnassus, doesn't he? Like that has to be a thing. Where and then Fabian's like, I need vengeance on Caesar.
Yeah.
And then
Yes, I like this.
maybe Crassus just dies of natural causes.
But I also like, you know, the whole Romeo and Juliet thing where things just happen, and because certain people don't know certain types of information,
the misinformation,
they assume other things, and I think that's what needs to happen here. So Crassus and Tarnassus die. One side thinks it was that side, the other side thinks it was the other side, but
Yeah.
really, maybe they just both died of natural causes.
So hard, right? Because there's got to be a moment there as well where maybe Caesar and Fabian have patched things up. They've been rivals for so long, and they're like, we were boyhood friends,
Yes.
and we can work together.
Yep.
Oh no, Tarnassus has died. Fabian then breaks the alliance, thinking Caesar has killed him.
Yep.
But it wasn't Caesar; it was something else.
Yep.
And then Crassus is dead. It's like, how could you? And then it's like,
That's it, yeah.
it's heartrending because you could have been happy,
Yeah.
and things could have worked out if you'd just known all of the information all along.
I also like to make it even more like heartbreaking. Crassus and Tarnassus need to die of natural causes, but right after they've just like come back together as like
Like
as
they
brothers,
they
yeah.
also patched things up
They were
and then subsequently
they were
died.
like a centimeter away from a completely happy ending, but because they then die immediately after they patch things up.
Maybe we introduce, instead of natural causes, because that's a bit of a coincidence, we introduce a third rogue element, which is the oil smugglers, and have murdered them to try and take over the oil, because they go,
right.
if we have the two elements of organized crime
Yep.
working together, suddenly all of this sort of like secret oil
Well, then
is...
Nero.
Nero, the pyromancer who loves nothing but fire.
Exactly.
Kills Crassus, kills Tarnassus,
Yep.
frames Caesar for killing
Yep.
Crassus, Tarnassus, and frames Fabian for
Killing. That's it.
and just sits there and laughs
Watches it
as
burn.
Rome burns to the ground.
Yep. So
that is perfect.
now so we know that Caesar dies because historically that's
Yeah.
what that. I mean, since when has Hollywood ever cared
Exactly.
about historical
Inglorious
accuracy?
Bastards had them kill, and that was fantastic because it was unexpected.
Yes. So what if? Okay. So does Caesar die and does Fabian die, or do they both live?
I think they. Fabian lives, Caesar dies.
Yep.
But Fabian has to sit there and watch Nero become the next emperor of Rome.
Because he watches it. Oh, okay.
So we've cast Caesar as Russell
You know what
Crowe.
that means? We can have a sequel as well.
We can have a sequel.
Yes.
We've cast Joaquin Phoenix as Fabian.
Yep.
We've cast Beau Bridges as Crassus.
Yep.
And Jeff Bridges as Tarnassus.
Yes.
We're just missing
We're
Nero.
missing Nero. Okay, so we know Nero is a pyromaniac.
Yep.
Do we want him to have that kind of maniacal craziness to him, or does he need to be more reserved?
I think no one suspects Nero until the end of the film, where Nero's just kind of been there the whole time, has maybe even been friends with both of them.
How about Paul Bettany?
Paul Bettany as Nero. I like it.
Because I'm thinking of the Da Vinci Code, where I'm pretty sure he played like an albino killer or something.
Yeah, an albino self-flagellating
That's
monk.
right, yeah. Okay. I feel like he would suit that role of Nero really well, just sort of in the background.
He's got the guy who you could trust, but then like if he has this weird smile and it's like, oh, actually maybe you're evil the whole time.
He's the kind of guy that you could walk past on a subway and like not see him unless he does something that makes you see him, and then you're like, I really see you right now.
Yeah, well, I think he's also like 6'5" or something like that, so he's kind of a bit difficult to miss.
That's all right.
And I think what we've done really well here as well, which, you know, is taking a leaf out of all the Mafia films in the past, is just like given no interesting roles to female characters.
Yes.
I think that...
Because we'll have to wait till the third film, and then we'll have to cast like one of our daughters that we don't have.
That's all right. We get to wait another 20 years or so before the third film comes out, so we've got a bit of time to work on that.
Yes, yeah, we've done very poorly for women in this film, but it'll be all rectified in the third film. I mean, do we want to change that for this film, or just...
I don't think so. Unless, like, I mean, you can have some pretty powerful elder women, because Julia is Julius Caesar's mother, played quite a large role in his life. So there'd be those sort of characters around. There's probably... Is there a love interest at some point? I don't think it needs it.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's a bit of a... we've done love triangles for like the last...
We've done a few times, love heptagons. There is the one last looming thing that we need to do with all of our films, and that is come up with a name for it.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so we're dealing with the classic Caesar story. We're dealing with the Roman Empire. It's obviously a mob film as well, a mafia film. And we sort of... I think we need to have a title that evokes the idea that this is the first mafia as well.
I mean, the way that everyone does that now is just like something Origins.
Mafia BC.
Mafia BC. I think we could have called it BC, Organized Crime. Which obviously doesn't make anything.
Well, BC could just be before crime.
Before crime?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, people will think we're making some kind of weird, like, semi-religious film if we call it BC. But if it's just called Before Crime...
I like it.
Yeah?
I really like it.
BC.
BC. And people just call it, Before Crime.
Yeah. That's it.
Wow.
That was easier than I thought. Yeah, okay. I think that's a wrap.
I think it is.
All right, housekeeping. As per usual, we are online at moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our previous episodes, our bios, and of course, Mufuzawidada, our database of films that we've created on this podcast. Search Facebook for Movie Film Studios and join the community where we post clues and hints as to the trailers that we've watched in upcoming episodes. Good luck.
It's like Goodfellas, Godfather. There's a lot of G-O-D kind of words in there. And
maybe
Scarface.
Just convert them all to Italian.
That's not a bad idea.
There you go.
But like, I think you'd have to break it up into like, you know, is there a word for Godfather in Italian?
I should know this, but no.
Is there a word for a good fella in a scarred face?
Or, I don't know what fella would be. Scar. I have no idea.
Good boy.
Faccia is face, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't know what scar is. Yes.
Anyway. Unless Scarcella actually just means Scarface, and all of this time you just haven't known.
Yeah, it's that film is a biography. We are on iTunes, we are on Podbean, we are on Spotify, and every other place that you get podcasts from. If they have the ability to give a rate, or if you have the ability to give a star rating to our podcast, how about chucking a few stars our way? We consume them daily.
Yeah, they're starving at the moment.
We're very much starving.
I think that's where the word starving comes from too, is not getting enough stars.
I think you're right. And I think that's it.
All that remains is to thank you all for listening this week. I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.
And April showers, romance will soon be ours. An outdoor paradise for two. I like every month in the year. Summer